All right, today we're putting a market leader under the microscope, Inovance Technology. This company is right at the epicenter of China's massive push into industrial automation and new energy. So our objective here is to deconstruct its business model, really get to the core of its competitive strengths, and understand the powerful market forces that are shaping its trajectory.
So, as promised, we're starting with the conclusion first. Our core assessment of Inovance really boils down to three critical takeaways. One, this is a fundamentally strong market leader in its space, no question. Two, its growth is being supercharged by some major secular trends, namely domestic substitution and electrification. And three, and this is a point we'll come back to, the current valuation already reflects some very high expectations for future performance.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for this analysis. We've touched on the core assessment. Next, we'll dissect the business segments. Then we'll analyze its competitive moat, identify the key growth drivers, and wrap it all up with a look at the balancing act between valuation and risk.
All right, let's get started. First up, we're going inside the engine room. To really understand what makes Inovance tick, you have to start with where the revenue actually comes from, its core business segments.
And this chart lays it out pretty clearly. When you look at the revenue breakdown for the first half of 2024, you can see the business is really built on two main pillars. You have general automation, making up just over 46%, and then the fast-growing new energy vehicle segment, which is already close to 38.5%. And of course, the smart elevator business is still a very stable and significant piece of the puzzle.
So let's drill down into that first pillar, general automation. You really have to think of this as the company's foundation. It's not just their biggest revenue stream. It's where Inovance has truly established its dominance. I mean, within China, it is the #1 domestic brand for mission-critical components like servo systems and small PLCs. You know, the very things that act as the brains and muscles of automated machinery. This puts them head-to-head with some of the biggest industrial players in the world.
Now, if general automation is the foundation, then the new energy vehicle, or NEV segment, is absolutely the growth engine. This is where the dynamism is coming from, and its market position is really interesting. Inovance is the top third-party supplier of electric drive systems in China, and that's a key distinction, right? It means they're #1 among the independent suppliers, sitting right behind giants who make their own systems like BYD and Tesla.
Okay, so that brings up a critical question. How exactly does Inovance defend this leadership position? Well, that leads us right into our next section, analyzing its competitive moat. We're talking about the structural advantages that act as a fortress, protecting the business from the competition.
You see, Inovance's competitive advantage isn't just one thing. It's really built on four interconnected pillars that reinforce each other. It all starts with leadership in core technology. That technological edge then allows them to offer integrated multi-product solutions that customers want. And successfully doing that, over time, builds powerful domestic brand dominance. Finally, underpinning all of this are the inherent cost advantages that come from their scale and operational efficiency.
And if you want concrete proof of their commitment to that first pillar, technology, this number says it all. 8.5%. That's the portion of their 2024 revenue that was plowed right back into R&D. Now, you have to understand that's not just an accounting line item. It's a very loud and clear strategic signal that they intend to protect and, more importantly, extend their technological leadership.
So, with that formidable competitive moat established, it's time to look forward. Let's turn our focus to the horizon and ask, what are the key drivers that are expected to fuel Inovance's growth from here?
Well, for starters, the biggest driver might just be the market itself. We're looking at the global industrial automation sector, which is projected to expand from around $206 billion to nearly $400 billion by 2029. That's a compound annual growth rate of almost 10%. What this means is that Inovance has a massive tailwind at its back. It's not just fighting for market share, it's riding the wave of a large and expanding market.
And there's another major factor at play here. The company's strategy is perfectly aligned with China's national industrial policy. This quote really frames it perfectly. Inovance is seen as a core beneficiary of the country's huge strategic pivot, moving away from being just a manufacturing giant to becoming an intelligent manufacturing power. Being in sync with that national goal provides a really durable long-term tailwind.
Okay, all of this now leads us to the final and perhaps most critical part of our analysis, the balancing act. It's where we have to weigh this very compelling growth story against the hard numbers of its valuation and the very real risks that lie ahead.
So, to put its valuation into context, let's look at it next to some key peers. Its trailing PE ratio is sitting around 45. Now, that's significantly higher than a traditional established player like Japan's Fanuc.
But look closer. It's very much in line with a high-growth peer like Taiwan's Delta Electronics. This tells you a lot about how the market is thinking about Inovance. It's being valued not as a traditional industrial, but as a growth company.
And this valuation is a classic example of what analysts call a high-growth premium. So what does that mean? In simple terms, the market isn't just paying for the company's current earnings. It's paying a premium based on a strong expectation of much higher sustained growth well into the future. It's fundamentally a bet on that future potential.
This whole dynamic really creates two very clear opposing arguments. The bull case is straightforward. You've got strong secular tailwinds, you've got clear domestic market leadership, and a solid technology moat. The bear case, on the other hand, is just as clear. That high valuation means there is very little room for execution error. Plus, you have intense competition and the ever-present risk that major clients could decide to bring production in-house.
And if we drill down from that high-level debate, there are some very specific operational risks that need to be on the radar. First, that high valuation makes it incredibly sensitive to any slip-ups in performance. Second, competition isn't going away. It's only getting more intense. Third, global supply chain uncertainty is just a fact of life now. And then you have more company-specific things, like the elevator business being tied to the real estate cycle and the ongoing challenge of managing accounts receivable when you're growing this fast.
And so, when you distill everything we've just discussed, our entire analysis really comes down to this one single question. There's no doubt that Inovance has proven its fundamentals and has built a powerful growth engine. The critical uncertainty, however, is this. Can the company's execution moving forward continue to justify the very high expectations already embedded in its valuation? That right there is the fundamental tension, and it's the key thing to watch.